live.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to CDW Microsoft webinar. Just wait for another couple minutes for the others to join. Okay, now let's start it maybe. So, hello everyone. Welcome to CDW Microsoft webinar. Today's topic, transform your meeting spaces with Microsoft Teams rooms. My name is Jacqueline. I'm going to be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this webinar through Microsoft Teams live events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. Today's web conference is being recorded on behalf of the CDW. By participating in the section using Microsoft Teams, your name and email address may be viewable by other participants. If you do not consider to be a part of our recording session, please disconnect at this time. The webinar recording will be made available within 5 to 7 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right-hand side of your screen. Our team members will be responding to your questions throughout the section. I'd like to thank you for your patience during these announcements. Now on to the main event. Presenting for us today from CDW, we have our Senior Sales Manager, Matthew Atwood, and from Microsoft, we have Microsoft Teams Room Partner Sales Executive Mike Murphy. Without any further delay, Matthew, Mike, welcome and thanks for joining us.
All right, thanks, Jacqueline, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Matt Edwards, Senior Manager at CDW Canada, and want to thank you for joining us for today's session on transforming your meeting spaces with Microsoft Teams Rooms. Very pleased to be joined today by Mike Murphy from Microsoft, who is a Teams Room expert. And just before we kind of jump in, I just want to mention, so CDW is a leading technology solutions partner providing cloud services for our corporate and public sector customers across Canada, the United States, along with the UK. We have had a trusted relationship with Microsoft for over 25 years, and as a global partner and Azure expert MSP, we provide a comprehensive array of solutions across the Microsoft technology stack. Just a reminder about housekeeping, Skype for Business Online is retiring on July 31st of this year. So with 2 months remaining until that service ends, we are focused on helping our customers upgrade to Microsoft Teams. As mentioned, CDW's expertise runs deep across the Microsoft portfolio. And with our solution architects team, our service delivery experts, along with our licensing specialists, we are well positioned to help our customers with any Microsoft project. And with that, I will turn things over to Mike.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Jacqueline. As mentioned, my name is Mike Murphy. I am the Partner Sales Executive at Microsoft, responsible for Microsoft Teams Rooms. And I purposely put the emphasis on the rooms because I think people hear Microsoft Teams and they automatically start thinking about that my core responsibility is about the software program of Microsoft Teams. And while I speak a lot to Microsoft Teams, and it's a big part of what I do, my main focus and my responsibility at Microsoft Canada is to promote Microsoft Teams Rooms. And Microsoft Teams Rooms is a hardware solution that I'll share with you today and introduce to you today that is going to play a key role, especially at the moment in time that we begin to prepare to come back from the COVID disruption we've all been listing. You know what? Feel free to screenshot this information here. If you want to connect on LinkedIn, I welcome it. On Twitter or email, I'm definitely happy to connect with all of you. And so we're at a really interesting moment in time. You know, if we look back a year and maybe even go back 18 months ago, I would say for most of us, most of the times when we were meeting, if you had somebody remote, they probably called in on a conference call. And we definitely have all been on a conference call in the past. And if you were remote, you didn't have an equitable experience in that meeting. You wouldn't be able to hear exactly some of the side conversations, or depending on where people sat closest to the phone or to the speaker, you either heard all of what they're saying too loudly, or you didn't hear anything at all. And you didn't have the ability to see, body language, facial expressions, movement around the room, any type of writing on a whiteboard or something like that. You were absolutely at a disadvantage, and maybe only really got somewhere about 10 to 15% of the meeting. And that's the way it was in the past, and we don't want to go back there by any stretch of the imagination. And we all know we've all been living through it globally. The disruption that happened, COVID-19 brought a lot of change, and change not just socially and health and medically, but it actually brought change in terms of how we work. And of course, Microsoft's played a key role in that change. And it's been incredible, the momentum that products like Microsoft Teams have been able to play and to gather, because it's allowed for everyone to continue to meet, continue to do commerce. And we just released about 2 weeks ago that Microsoft now has over 145 million daily users of Microsoft Teams, and that continues to grow. If you go back a year, that was 32 million users a year ago, 12 months ago, and now it's at 145 million and going north from there. And that really speaks to the role that video has played in the time that we're all working remotely, but also, of course, Microsoft's role as well. Here we are today on a call like this, or whether it's just a regular call where you might have 6, 8, 10 people in a meeting, and this meeting experience we have today is very, very good. It's equitable. And equitable is something that we're striving for, to make sure we don't just forget how it was in the past. We want to see how we are today and make sure that continues in the future. And if you take a look at this image right here, it's exactly what we all have been doing. Everyone's facial expressions can be seen. We're all equal in size. Our voices can be heard. We can read the cues of the room and jump in with a question if needed. We can present our screens equally. We have our names in the corner in terms of who we are. We're all identified. If we speak, Microsoft Teams has a transcription service, so it's attributed to who's speaking, and that means after the meeting, you're able to understand who said what, and it's all equal, and it's all very easy. And so where we are today, while we're probably all craving, or many of us are craving, social interaction, from a meetings perspective, it's never been better. So as we get ready to come back, and I think that depending on where you are globally, I've seen I'm now in meetings. I'm on the Microsoft's global sales team, so I'm often meeting with people in the US and in UK. They are now meeting from meeting rooms. I can see them in the background, and it's kind of a unique thing that we haven't seen in about a year. And so depending on where we are geographically, even within Canada, we will all come back. Now, the date, your guess might be as good as mine on when that date will be, but probably somewhere towards the end of this year, there will be a return to the office, probably structured. And I think the underlying consensus is that when the pandemic is officially under control, that the office will take on a hybrid format of what it was before. And you probably heard a lot of conversations about what that means, but essentially, we're not going to stay home forever. And when when we raise the flag and declare victory, we're not all going to go back to the office and have nobody staying home. There will very likely be a hybrid situation where some of us are at home and some of us will be in the office. And it's the leanings are, and the research is showing that the office is going to be used as the place where people go to collaborate and go to meet, and that on those days is when you would go in and you'll have some sort of structure. And Microsoft might be a good example of it. That our global operations has announced that once that you're eligible to go back to the office, that you only have to go into the office 50% of the time, and it's up to the associates at Microsoft to work out with their manager on what that looks like. So whether it's 2 days 1 week, 3 days the next week, or how 1 day on, 1 week on, 1 week off, or picking the dates with the meetings to be in on those dates. So a hybrid office is going to create a situation where you'll have an increased number of people remotely dialing into the meetings than we did have before we took a break and all went home about a year ago. And this slide shows that probably something pretty typical that's going to happen as people come back. You're going to have, of course, a number of people in the room, a number of people remote. The people remote will be able to be seen quite easily through a product like Microsoft Teams. And the only thing I would say that's missing here is that everybody in the meeting is going to have their own laptop. And because even if you didn't have a laptop a year ago, pretty well everyone's been issued one in the last 12 months. And I think that what will happen is that people will want to make sure that when they're in the meeting that they've got their laptop. That actually lends itself to be a positive strategy, because at that point you'll be able to have the viewers at home equitably see your face and be able to at least get a sense of what your facial expressions are, and have the ability to have that equal experience. The way this room's set up, though, it looks like it's a room that would have an LCD screen. Looks like it's got a webcam of some sort and maybe an HDMI cable. And essentially, this is maybe, if the conference call of the past is getting 10 to 15% of the job done, this might get 35 to 45% of the job done. Again, the people closest to the screen are going to be able to be seen and heard. The people at home will see the one fisheye camera at the front and won't be able to see the facial expressions or what's happening on the side. You can see there's an easel there with a whiteboard option, an old style whiteboard. The people at home wouldn't be able to experience that. So when we come back to the office, it's going to be a reality that we're going to move backwards in terms of how we've been meeting. And we don't have to. There's products like Microsoft Teams Rooms, which is the hardware solution that I want to show you, that is going to help make the meetings easy and help the meetings equitable. And I'll share with you a little bit of what that means. And it's probably really important to realize that if you don't have your meeting rooms optimized for video right now, you're not alone. Microsoft's done research, and only 7% of meeting rooms in North America right now are currently optimized to be able to have video run in those rooms. So they might have just like this image, they might have an LCD screen, they might have a camera, but that's about it. You would have to kind of work your way through the rest of that meeting without all of the extra connections. So most offices as it stands right now don't have the proper meeting room technology to be able to make it an easy connection and to make it an equitable meeting. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. Here's a still image of Microsoft's vision of what the meeting room will look like. And I'm going to see if I can share in the notes afterwards a link for the video, but if not, please reach out to me. I'm happy to send it to you. And we've just released a video that shows what Microsoft's vision of the meeting space will look like. Depending on the size of the room, especially in the larger meeting rooms, we anticipate that the participants of the room will not face the short wall in the room, but they'll face the long wall in the room. And that we're going to need a larger screen than traditionally would have been there. And even an 85-inch screen is not going to probably be big enough for a typical meeting if you want to be able to capture all the different features of what Microsoft Teams Rooms can provide. Now, this image shows a number of things, and I'll just show some highlights to what it is. So if you take a look across the bottom, you've got all the remote participants that are there. They're all facing the table. The table's been set up in such a way so that it's basically looking like you're looking across the room to the people you're meeting with remotely. They're all about life size, so that when you're looking at each other, it feels right. They all have their name associated with them, so you know exactly who everybody is when they're speaking. You'll also notice that they're cropped, and this is something that's been around for about 4 or 5 months from Microsoft, maybe 6 months. And that AI cropping is something that you can do today in Microsoft Teams, what's called Together mode. And you can actually have people so that you can crop your backgrounds away, and it actually takes away some of that extra noise, gives your brain a little bit less to focus on, and you can see the people you're meeting with. And so we're taking that technology and we're going to align all the participants across the bottom of the screen and basically put it on a black background. And so that just makes it real easy to see everybody's in the room and see everybody you're meeting with. The nice thing about this technology is that even if the people are in the room, the people that are remote will see all the people in the room in the exact same way. And even if there's only one camera. And so we're announcing some new partnerships, our new announcements with our current camera partners that are going to speak to something that can be rolled out in the second half of this year, which will allow to basically have isolated images cropped, even though there's one camera on multiple people. The other thing you'll notice here is that you've actually got two images. So you've got the PowerPoint deck on the left side, and you've got a whiteboard at this point, but it can be something other than that. And so you basically got two screens running and showing different content at the same time. On the left-hand side, it's got chat. We see that actually, starting on some new editions of Teams that's coming, that will be where you'll have action items. And the action items can be entered in by people in the meeting room, or it can be automated. You can leverage Cortana and verbally speak to Cortana to take action items. On the right-hand side is where you typically see your chat, and then that will expect to continue there. We're actually saying that because this meeting space is going to get bigger, that we anticipate that the display technology, at least in the large meeting rooms, will move over to either a micro LED type technology, or it'll be maybe a dual projector type technology. And so we've actually been working with the display manufacturers to come out with different options that would make sense there. So maybe if you haven't deployed projection technology for a little while in your organizations, that might be something you'll be looking at as you get ready to deploy new products in the future. And lastly, from this screen, what I want to show you is the console that's sitting on the table in the center of the screen. And that's the hardware that is the Microsoft Teams Rooms hardware. And I'll do a deeper dive for you on what that's all about. So introducing Microsoft Teams Rooms, and it's a product that's been around for actually 18 months to 2 years, but really taking stride in the last 6 months to a year, and for all the obvious reasons. And our motion right now is about making sure that all of the meeting rooms that are sitting idle right now or used very minimally are going to be ready for the wave that comes back at some time, probably later this year. So Microsoft Teams Rooms is a hardware solution, but it's not Microsoft branded hardware. It's hardware made by these partners right here. So we've got Crestron, Logitech, Lenovo, Yealink, Dell, Poly, HP. And there are versions that come in either Windows or Android. We like them both. They're both very good. And it's something that at the moment, the Windows version generally is more fully featured than the Android version. The Android version is more aggressively priced than the Windows version. So you got a little bit give and take depending on what your priorities are. The good news is that a lot of the new announcements that have been coming out month after month have mostly been, there've been a lot of announcements of Android features catching up to the Windows features. And what we will anticipate that this year, by the end of this calendar year, that the Android platform will be at parity with the Windows platform. And that any new announcements that happen after that point will happen at the same time. It doesn't matter what space you have. There's a solution that fits the need, and CDW can help you build that room. And they can leverage obviously their internal resources and Microsoft resources to make sure whether it's a small phone booth style or personal office or right up to a full collaboration area or auditorium. There are solutions there that will allow you to deploy hardware solutions that makes it really easy to connect in and really easy to have an equitable meeting. This is the anatomy of what the Microsoft Teams Rooms hardware looks like, the Teams Room solution. So you'll see there on the screen, there's the console, and that console is a touch screen. It's somewhere usually around a 10-inch touch screen, depending on the manufacturer, which OEM manufacturer. And then there's a speaker and microphone, as you can see, kind of tucked in behind it, HDMI cable, of course, and a camera. What it doesn't include is the LCD screen. That's completely up to you. That would be independent of the solution. Although if it was a Microsoft Surface Hub, it would actually fall under some of the updates and things that are possible. So other than the Surface Hub, essentially the system is independent of the LCD display. What you'll notice on the console is actually the GUI that's there. You'll see on the left-hand side of the console are the 3 upcoming meetings, and you can one-touch right into that meeting just by clicking on the meeting itself. You have the ability to add new people and just generally have some setup controls on the tabletop from this device. So a really nice way, real easy way to connect in and have your users stay within a platform they're familiar with in Teams and be able to continue on and meet, have that in the meeting room in the same way. Often a question that comes up right now is the question that can you create anonymity for those meetings? And you can. So if the president has a meeting about an acquisition of another company or something, of course you don't want that showing in any public areas. So you can have it so that those meeting details are not disclosed. And some of the features of the Microsoft Teams Rooms include a real easy way to connect, and it's called proximity-based meeting join. And this is essentially a Bluetooth beacon technology that will reach out to anyone that walks near within 2 meters of the device before a meeting starts. If you come in and you come up within 2 meters of that device will actually ping your laptop or your mobile device and essentially check in if you want to be able to connect into the meeting. So if you are an organization that's probably paying attention to reducing touches in the meeting space, this product checks one of those boxes that allows you to come in and connect in, and you don't have to touch and connect in or even touch cables. It's all done wirelessly. This product here, even though I showed you on the previous slide, there's an HDMI cable. This product here has been designed, and it is expected that the users are connecting in wirelessly. And this is a real departure from meeting technology in the past, where generally, there's been wireless technologies there, and they've been the fail-safe. You've always had the fail-safe. You need a wired. You would probably prefer to have a wired connection, but the wireless option was there. This one here is almost flips that the other way around. And so it really designs, a Microsoft Teams Room is designed to be connected in wirelessly. One of the things you'll notice, especially when I showed you that image at the beginning, where the meetings of the future, where we're all sitting at a meeting, in a meeting space, and you've got the LCD at the front, and I mentioned that everyone should have a laptop. That's generally what we encourage, and that's generally what will happen naturally. And so what will happen though is when you have multiple laptops in a room, if you don't have a Teams Room solution, you'll have multiple live microphones and multiple live speakers. And when it's known that when you have that, you get screeching and echo that essentially causes some pain. And so to avoid that, the Microsoft Teams Rooms hardware, as soon as you connect in, defaults your speaker and microphone to off, and defaults you to now the superior speaker and microphone that would be on the tabletop in the meeting space. It allows you to continue to use your camera so that the people at home can see you in an equitable fashion. If you want to speak up, you can speak, and you're here just nice and clearly on that superior microphone system. The speaker's nice and loud, and depending on the room, sometimes you might have 2 of them or multiple, maybe 3, depending on the size of the room. We have different recommendations, but essentially it cleans up that entire issue that your users will have when they come back. And if they want to walk into a meeting room and maybe one person connects into the HDMI cable at the front and presents, and the others want to connect in through their Wi-Fi and join the meeting, it will be a continuous a continuous conversation of, okay, is your microphone off? Are you muted? I'm on, you're not on. And this avoids all of that annoyances. So echo avoidance and echo suppression. The Microsoft Teams Room hardware is actually really intuitive, and so it will recognize if there's more than one screen at the front of the room. And if there are two screens, it will actually split out all the video images onto one screen and the PowerPoint deck or a whiteboard presentation on the second screen. And so that way it doesn't stretch them, it doesn't duplicate the images, it'll automatically know how to split those out, which obviously I think would make most sense. You can continue to see all the people you're speaking with as large as possible. And of course you can see your presentation as large as possible. So one of the advantages that we have today, when I spoke that, meeting rooms present, one of the things that make meeting rooms present really good is that we can attribute who said what within a meeting. And Microsoft is really making sure that most people know that a meeting is not just the moment that we're in right now. There's a pre, a during, and a post meeting. And there's so many new technologies through Microsoft Teams that allows you pre-meeting to share files, to chat, and to connect and be prepared for the meeting. So by the time you're in that meeting, you're able to focus on the things that you need to. As mentioned, during that meeting, there are meeting minutes and notes can be taken, transcription. And then afterwards, though, post-meeting, you're able to refer back to the notes, look at those action items that maybe Cortana took, and be able to make sure that you completed everything that was discussed in that meeting. One of the things that moves backwards is that once we come back into a standard meeting room, even if you have a Teams room device, you won't know who said what. And so you lose some of the identifiable transcription until now. And so we're really excited to announce Intelligent Speaker by Microsoft. We're partnering with two hardware partners, ePost and Yealink, and they have an intelligent speaker that basically will understand who is speaking and be able to attribute the transcription to the people that are speaking in the room. And usually the first question that comes up is in terms of security and identity concerns. So this technology is only available, or basically you would opt into the technology. You have to record your voice. You have to purposely enter into the technology. So it's something that for those that welcome the ability to have those features, you don't lose it now when you go back into the office. We've got Intelligent Speaker there to make sure that we can keep track of who owns which action items and who is responsible for what. Content cameras. You know what? I just saw Logitech announce the content camera today, but there are a couple of them out there right now. And a content camera is a camera specifically designed to be mounted above a traditional old school whiteboard and capture the content that's on it. And you can see just on the left-hand side of the screen, you've got an image of coming from a content camera. And actually, for those at home, it looks very much like an electronic whiteboard. And it's a good way to make sure that even for those that want to do some brainstorming and might not have an electronic whiteboard at the front of the room, you still have the ability to do all the capturing, and the people at home don't lose that equitable experience. And this might be actually one of the areas where the remote worker actually might have a slight advantage in terms of what happens in the meeting. And so through a technology called Microsoft Intelligent Capture, we can actually make the presenter transparent. And so as they write on the whiteboard, that content camera will then keep track of what's been written, and you can actually have zero disruption in terms of what's being recorded on the whiteboard. So very high on the cool factor, high on the sci-fi factor, and really, really high in the usefulness factor. Also, one of the conversations that comes up as we're working with customers that are looking to create a standard on Microsoft is that they're worried that they might have customers that might book meetings or partnerships that might book meetings that are not on a Microsoft standard. And they're worried that if they were to put a Microsoft Teams room solution together, that the meeting room won't be usable. And the good news is Microsoft has developed a technology called Direct Guest Join. And Direct Guest Join is basically a great technology that allows for Cisco WebEx and Zoom meetings to be picked up on the Microsoft hardware. And if you take a look on the right-hand side of this screen, you'll see that again on the GUI of the console, there are 3 buttons on the left-hand side, and you can see that it actually will put the logo of which platform you're speaking on, are speaking and looking at, will be in the top right-hand corner of that button. So the very top button, it's Microsoft Teams. The middle button you can see in that red square is WebEx. And then the third button, the red square, you can see that is Zoom. So a really, really strong technology, and essentially there is no worry that if you deploy Microsoft Teams Rooms hardware, that you would be boxed out of one of those 2 platforms. Now, Microsoft Teams Rooms, the device itself will need a license. And there are 2 different versions of the license. There's Microsoft Teams Room Standard, and Microsoft Teams Room Standard is everything that I shared with you so far today. And then there's Microsoft Teams Rooms Premium. And Microsoft Teams Rooms Premium is everything that Microsoft Standard has, but also has a Microsoft Managed Services technology as well. And the Managed Services technology really has 3 main components to it. The first one is that we will manage the room. So Microsoft will leverage our AI technology, a machine learning technology that will monitor your meeting room for 24/7, 365, and watch to see if there are any problems. And if there will be alerts. If it's something that can be remediated with software, it will do that. And we have seen that with this management tool, IT departments don't have to worry about the new 30 or 40 new meeting room endpoints that are deployed out there from a headache perspective. They also don't have to worry about updates. So whether it's a Windows update or a drivers update, everything within that Microsoft Teams Room ecosystem is now fully up to date, will be updated at times when the room's not being used, usually overnight. But depending on what that environment's like, it may not pick that time if that's when the meeting rooms might be used in your environment. So it learns when to do it. And probably one of the most powerful things about the Microsoft Expert Management is that we learn from what happens inside the room. And when we see certain configurations or certain things happening, we can learn from what happened in the past and correct what happens in the future. And the powerful thing about Microsoft is we're not just taking those learnings from your rooms. We've learned from all the rooms active around the world that are on a Microsoft platform, and we can then apply those insights to making sure that you have less outages when you have meeting rooms. The second thing is that from a security perspective, it falls under the Microsoft 365 security blanket. So essentially, you're going to get best in class when it comes to security. And lastly, when I mention insights, there's actually literally insights that you will get access to in terms of data and analytics. And it'll tell you how often your room's being used. It'll tell you how many people are in the room at certain times. If you've got caps on that type of thing, you can actually make sure that you're alerted for that type of thing. Insights and just on the usage of the room and understanding that maybe some rooms are being used more, maybe the huddle rooms are being used more and the bigger rooms aren't, vice versa. Maybe you're finding that the bigger rooms are always used, certain floors, their meeting rooms are always used, and other floors they're not. So it'll just give you an understanding on how your business is being run, and they're facts. Literally there'll be the facts of what happens in those meeting spaces. And then all of those 3 things are designed to be presented to you through CDW, through our trusted partner. And so that's something that I welcome you have a conversation with CDW about, and if that's something that you think would be of value for you. And so everything I've spoken to about so far today has been Microsoft Teams Rooms. And I apologize that today I normally have a sidekick here. I've got a technical resource with me as well, and I don't today. And so if there are questions, put them in the chat. We'll get to them as best we can after the call. And so just stay connected in, and we'll make sure you get that there. If not, we'll try to reach out to those of you that have questions, and I will reach out and make sure I catch up. So everything up until now is in Microsoft Teams rooms, but I also want to share with you a couple of slides on Microsoft Teams, because as I mentioned, even though I'm focused on Teams rooms, I speak quite a bit to Microsoft Teams as well. And depending on, I think most people are familiar with Microsoft Teams now. You're probably aware that there are a number of different aspects to it, but probably people don't realize that Microsoft Teams is really a productivity tool more than it's a video tool. And it's probably, you know, I might be biased, but it's the best video tool possibly out there right now. And even within that, it's designed to be a productivity tool. And our CEO, Satya Nadella, had said maybe about a month ago that he thinks that the way that we've designed Teams and brought it to market, it's our vision that Microsoft Teams, and his quote is, will be bigger than the internet. And I think that that is a big claim, and it's not a statement made lightly, but it's made in such a way that if your organization really migrates to a productivity tool like this, there's never any reason to leave Teams. You will be in it all day long. You can open your you can open all of your files, you can share files, you can store files, you can collaborate, you can do video, you can do regular calling. You've got obviously all the conversations and chats and all that saved. And so all of your tools and everything from a Microsoft Office perspective is capable of being powered out of Microsoft Teams. And then of course, also being there so that it's searchable and traceable. And it just allows for a great footprint. So, you know, this graphic shows, you know, of course, this is the chat mode, and you can see that you can share files and have all the good stuff that's with that. And of course, it leans on the SharePoint backbone. We're using the video. I think video is probably what we're best known for in this space right now. So Microsoft Meetings. We've got Microsoft Calling. This is becoming more and more popular. We've got many enterprise level companies, Fortune 100 companies that are moving their calling over to Teams from traditional calling, and finding that it's actually a better performance and a more cost-effective way to connect in. We've got the Teams chats themselves. So, you know, you can have a number of different groups, and as you probably know, in each group can have different channels, and all the different channels essentially are driving conversations and keeping conversations organized. I can attest that since I joined Microsoft, I've been Microsoft now for 5 months. My emails are a fraction of what they were at the previous company that I worked with, and it's because Microsoft lives and breathes in Teams. And so all those conversations, all those little announcements, all those group announcements, all of them happen in Microsoft Teams. What you may or may not be aware of is that actually Teams has the ability to develop apps, or you can develop apps to expand Teams and create workflows, and whether it's workflows that can do an expense report type of workflow or something along that line. It can all be done. It can live and breathe in Teams, and your users would never have to either leave their mobile device version of Teams or, of course, their desktop device version of Teams. I'm just checking the time. We're doing really well. So what's new from Teams? Well, here's some of a snapshot of some things that are just released on the Microsoft Teams roadmap. First and foremost, breakout rooms. They're live right across all the different rings right now. So if you have a meeting and you want to break people up into different groups in the middle of that meeting, very easy to do. It can be set up so that the breakout groups can be done either determined by you, or you can have them randomly assigned and essentially give a time limit that they go across into their meeting. And of course, once they're back, or once they're done, you bring them all back to the main meeting. Now, just in a meeting last week that we did that, and it worked great. Microsoft Together mode scenes, that's what I was showing you on the other screen, that essentially what we're trying to do is migrate away from the Brady Bunch style 9 squares or up to 49 squares now with Microsoft Teams, and take away some of the background noise. And Microsoft's really driven an attention towards making sure that we pay attention to disabilities, and whether that disability is something like ADD, by having Together mode and taking away the background, It helps somebody with a condition like that. It also helps with just the mental fatigue of absorbing all that information by having a constant background. And as mentioned, in the future, we anticipate there'll be a black background most often, that you could pick different backgrounds. And so there's an auditorium version, depending on how many people you have in the room, or maybe down to a tabletop version like this that you can see in the second square, where people are able to have this a closer together experience. Dynamic view is as simple as that, depending on how many people are talking, the person that's talking, usually you'll find they'll get bigger, and you can have different settings so that you can have the main people or the people that spoke most recently, they stay larger than others, and just make sure that it fills out the entire display space that's there. One of my favorite, this is actually my favorite new feature, is called custom layouts. And this is where you can do presentations and the presenter can actually be go into like a news anchor mode, and this is called presenter mode, and it allows you to pick a number of different scenarios that that can make it easier for the presenter to be seen and understood, and get the maximum amount of facial expression, body language that you would have if you were in a normal meeting space one-on-one. And that's available today as well. And then the last two, live reactions in large meetings. We're doing a lot of development here, and even in webinars, what we're on today is Microsoft Teams large meetings. You're going to find more and more that those feature sets are going to come closer to what you see in just a traditional Teams meeting if it's 3 people in it. So the interface is going to be more and more simple and more familiar as time goes on, and there's more and more development happening there all the time. And you know what, this was something, I didn't hook up the audio, unfortunately, for us today, but this was a good illustration to share that the performance of Microsoft Teams is very, very good. And we've got a technology called packet loss resiliency. And a big reason why Microsoft does so well, Microsoft Teams, in terms of just not having issues with packet loss, is that because Microsoft Teams is running on the Microsoft 365 network. And the Microsoft network arguably is the best in the world at driving audio and video and content. And so while other products that compete with Microsoft Teams might have similar technologies, we would put our network up against anyone's to make sure to basically give you and your users the best possible chance to have a very clean, chop-free experience when there's a meeting going on. And that's Microsoft Teams and Microsoft Teams Rooms.
Meeting over.
Let me just forward it here. I think that's my last one. It is. So I'm going to just pop out of here and just see if I can see if there's or any questions in the chat at all. I think there are a couple of questions there.
Yes, thank you very much, Mike. I hope you all enjoyed this amazing presentation. Now, Mike will answer some questions. Please enter your questions in the chat box. So, yes, hi, Mike, the first question is from Kevin. Say, is there monitoring and alerting for MTRs if you have Microsoft Teams Room Standard?
So there is a limited ability to have some alerting on MTR through the Microsoft Admin Center. So when you go into the Teams area of Microsoft's Admin Center, there is some simple monitoring there. If you want the complete version of it and have especially the alerting and the full alerting and the update ability, then you would want to go from standard to premium. Thank
you, Mike. Yeah. So maybe give another couple minutes for the others to, now we have a second
just seeing this here. Yeah. Is there plans to have an option for original audio like in Zoom? I would say, I don't know the date, but yes, there is. So there's a lot of features that we've seen in other technologies, including this, that I anticipate you'll see soon. I can't give you the exact date, but I would say probably this calendar year. And the nice thing about Microsoft Teams Rooms that even when there's features not there today, that once you deploy this technology, you not only get what's capable today, but of course you get all the benefits of the upgrades that happen after the point of purchase. Thanks, Dan. Any other questions out there? Well, that's awesome. I appreciate everybody's time. If you've got questions, my email is mikemurphy@microsoft.com. Always happy to help out. Or also please reach out to your CDW inside sales representative. And of course, they might be able to help out. And if it's something that they need to escalate up, we're always here to connect. And looks like we have just one more here. How do we install the voice licenses in Teams? So technically, we know that could be a longer conversation, but with voice, you will need to add the extra license. So there's a Teams license that you would procure through Microsoft 365, and then if you want to have the voice license, I think it is another. I won't put the price up here, but I think the MSRP is $8 US, and you would add that to your the phone system that you're using, or if it's on your PC, you would load that on your PC. So it's a secondary license. And you know what? I'll stay on here for a couple of minutes. I thank everybody, and I'll just to see if there's any other if there are any other questions. I'll stay on for 4 or 5 minutes, and otherwise, I thank everyone for your time. I thank everyone at CDW as always, and everyone that's been able to join us today. Thank you very much, and look forward to hopefully working with you and maybe getting to see some of you in the future real soon. Thank you.
Thank you again, Mike, for answering those questions and for the great presentation. It was a pleasure to have you with us. So this concludes the webinar. Thank you all for attending. We hope you have learned and enjoyed this presentation. So Mike will stay online for another couple minutes. Feel free to type into your questions.
Thanks, Jacqueline.
So Mike, do you mind I publish your email address?
That'd be great. No, thank you. Please do. Just in case, right? Today we didn't have the ability to have Liam or Jimmy on there, so we want to make sure that everyone has a chance to ask the question if they have them. Okay, Dan's got a question. If there's an existing meeting with some chat history and I invite someone temporarily, is there an option for them not to see the chat history? That's an interesting question. I don't think so. Not today, not that I can think of. At this point in time, they would see the chat history. And just as curious, if somebody's in a recurring meeting and gets invited in 1 week to join a group, they continually get that chat history access. So I think some of that stuff, again, any of those obvious questions like that, those are the things that I would expect you'll see will have options in the future. Good question, Dan. Okay, Jacqueline, well, you know what? I'm going to jump off here. Thanks to everybody. Cassandra, Michelle, thank you.
Thank you,
That was
Mike.
great. Thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Mike. Have a good one.
Okay, you too. Chat soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.